Hello and welcome. Before starting today's video, I would like to share an incident from the year 1979 with you. A guy encircled within the security of CRPF, Z plus security I must say, came out from a government bungalow, went near to the government car and sat in it. He asked the driver, let's go. The driver replied, where do we have to go, sir? He said, you just keep driving, I will be telling you the path. Now, the guy took the driver in the middle of the field and asked him to stop the car. The driver stopped the car. He saw the guy who was encircled in the Z plus security, Sahab particularly as we say in Hindi. The Sahab came out of the car and he saw two of the farmers sitting near a tube well were having their lunch. He went near to them. The farmers, when they saw a guy with CRPF security, Sahab particularly coming near to them, they went hopeless. They panicked. They just kept their lunch besides and stood up and saluted him. He asked the farmers, what happened? Didn't you guys have your lunch today? The farmers replied, no sir. He asked another question. Okay, then what was that which you were having a few moments before? The farmers went hopeless, speechless. They were scared. They replied, yes sir. He said, come, let's have lunch together. He asked the driver to bring the lunch which was kept near the tube well, sat there on the field, on the floor with the farmers and had their lunch and asked them, what happened? Why is the jaggery not here? The farmers replied, sorry sir, the jaggery is finished. Now the guy, the Sahab particularly whom I am talking about is late Shri Chaudhary Charan Singh ji, the 5th Prime Minister of India. Chaudhary Charan Singh, two-time Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh. Ex-Home Minister of India. In 1977, he was the Home Minister of India. He was also the Finance Minister of India. And Chaudhary Charan Singh still is called the champion of Indian peasants. Peasants mean Kisans, the farmers. The champion of Indian peasants. That's what they call Chaudhary Charan Singh. And it actually is very true. In fact, if I tell you the biggest farmer politician, the biggest farmer leader ever the nation has had is Chaudhary Charan Singh. Late Shri Chaudhary Charan Singh. And why am I talking about him today? It is actually very necessary to talk about him today in such scenarios. The farmers' protests are at their peak, and whenever you're talking about farmers, their demands, it becomes quite an obvious thing to talk about late Shri Chaudhary Charan Singh ji. As I told you, he was the biggest leader of farmers ever, and he had some very good qualities in him that made him such a biggest leader. And why it is so, I'll be telling you ahead in this video. Let's move with his biography first. So in 1902, he was born to a farmer father in a farmer family in the village of Noorpur in the Agra province. In 1902, the nation was not free, so it was divided. The states, the situation was not like today. There was no states. The provinces and princely states were the only two categories which the India was categorized. The different areas were categorized. So in the Agra province, Chaudhary Charan Singh was born to a farmer family in the village of Noorpur. Now this Noorpur today lies in the Hapur district of Uttar Pradesh. Hapur is a district when you move forward from Ghaziabad. Like Ghaziabad is in Delhi NCR. When you move towards UP, when you go deep down in UP, crossing Ghaziabad, you can visit Hapur very easily. Hapur is the same place where the famous poet Dr. Kumar Vishwas comes from. Also Delhi's Deputy Chief Minister Mr. Manish Sisodia is from Hapur only. Well, so he was born, Mr. Chaudhary Charan Singh ji. He was born on 23rd of December 1902 in the Noorpur village. His father was a farmer, as I have told you before. So he kept learning the farming, and because at that time there was a scenario that a child born to a farmer is defaultly considered to become a farmer in his own very future. There was nothing like he'll be going out, such were not the trends at that very particular time. But Chaudhary Charan Singh was exclusively very intelligent in its studies. So he kept on studying as well as doing farming, learning farming with his father only. So in 1925, he completed his Master of Arts degree from the Agra University. Next year in 1926, he got his LLB degree, law degree from the same university. And in 1928, he left his village, he left his area, went to Ghaziabad to pursue his civil law practices. Now see, why he went to Ghaziabad is another thing which tells you the scenario of that very particular time. At that time, the occupation was not that available in the villages, like Noorpur was a village at that time. Still it is a village, but today's villages are quite different from the villages that of pre-independence era, right? So he decided to go out to Ghaziabad. He resided in Ghaziabad, started his civil law practices in Ghaziabad. Now that's where he decided to go into the politics. In 1937, after 9 years, when he went to Ghaziabad, he kept on pursuing his law practices. So civil law was his occupation basically. So in 1937, at the age of 34 only, he was elected as the MLA of United Province Assembly. United Province, precisely speaking, today it's Uttar Pradesh. So at that time it used to be United Province. So he was elected as an MLA from the Chhaparoli constituency to the United Province Assembly. So that was another achievement from him, and that's where he started growing up. And the way he grew is something amazing, because it was only the time span of 1 year when the whole nation came to know about him only, because he stepped into the politics in 1937 only. He became the MLA from Chhaparoli constituency. This guy, which I am talking about, Chaudhary Charan Singh, came up with an amazing idea. He came up with a bill named Agriculture Produce Market Bill. And this bill was so amazing. It was such an amazing, development, I must say, an innovation, I must say, an idea, I must say, that the situations of farmer at that very particular time and the situation which was going to be after the implementation of this bill was way far different. There was a huge difference between that situation, and everybody sitting in that hall and in that assembly could see the vision he had imparted through this bill. And the things became more humongous when the Hindustan Times published this news on their front page. Hindustan Times published on their front page that there is a guy named Chaudhary Charan Singh sitting in the United Province Assembly. He has proposed this bill for farmers, and this seems to be quite an amazing thing. Let us know your comments. So this was something how the Hindustan Times published it on their front page. So the whole nation, the bigger politicians came to know about it. Jawaharlal Nehru came aware of it. So nobody was reluctant to this. So they all came to know about this, and only within a time span of 1 year, Chaudhary Charan Singh was now a national leader. The farmers across the country started relying upon him. Chaudhary Charan Singh apparently he became the leader of the farmers. Whenever there was a discussion regarding the development of the farmers, Chaudhary Charan Singh used to be the first man whom they called for. So that was the situation now, within a time span of 1 year, and that all was because of his agriculture produce market bill. The farmers started trusting him, they started relying him, because he was among them only, because he did him blindfoldedly. And now, in 1938, as I told you, he proposed this bill. In 1940, till 1940, whole nation came across through this bill, and Punjab became the very first state to implement this bill. Now, he also got married. He kept on, working in politics. He kept on focusing in his politics as well as he got married. His wife's name is Gayatri Devi. She also was an MLA from Gokul. Gokul is a place in Uttar Pradesh where the Lord Krishna of Hindu mythology belongs to. So she was also an MLA. Now his son, he had 6 children. His son, the elder one, Ajit Singh. Ajit Singh is also a politician. He is the founder of Rashtriya Lok Dal. Rashtriya Lok Dal, unfortunately, is not such a prominent party nowadays. In fact, I will tell you, I must say that it is kind of null and void party, because they have some of their, features or some of their voters only in the western Uttar Pradesh. So they are not that prominent. I must say they are going to be null and void in the upcoming years as well. So now in 1952, when the country got independence in 1952, Chaudhary Charan Singh was the agriculture minister for Uttar Pradesh. Now what he did was, being the agriculture minister for Uttar Pradesh, he decided to abolish the Zamindari Act. If you do not know the Zamindari Act, let me tell you very briefly. Zamindari Act was something that zamindars were considered to be the owners of their field, and they used to lend the field to the farmers. So the farmers were not in those profits, I must say, because they were in debt completely, because they had to pay to the zamindars as well, because they were growing crops on his field, as well as they need to pay the debt because they had bought some seeds or those resources which they used to grow crop. So Chaudhary Charan Singh abolished this Zamindari Act. Now this decision made him more famous, more reliable. Farmers started trusting him much more, right? So this was the time when he took a huge jump in the politics. Now in 1967, also I'll tell you, he was from Indian National Congress initially, but he had kind of ideological differences with Jawaharlal Nehru. He used to think that Jawaharlal Nehru is not able to talk about the ground level of politics. He doesn't knows about the situations of the farmers at the very ground level. So he had some ideological differences with Jawaharlal Nehru as well, and due to these ideological differences, he left the party in 1967 only, along with his two friends Ram Manohar Lohia and Raj Narayan. So what they do? They left the party in 1967. Now whole Uttar Pradesh knew them. In fact, whole India knew them, especially Chaudhary Charan Singh. So they made another party. Party was named Bharatiya Kranti Dal, BKD, and in 1967's legislative elections, they won them quite easily because they were well-known faces. The people trusted them, especially the farmers trusted them humongously. So they won the elections, and in 1967, Chaudhary Charan Singh became the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh for the very first time. In 1970, he became the Chief Minister for the second time. Now, till now, the situations were okay. But in 1975, when Indira Gandhi implemented the emergency, this was the time when India's politics started changing. Indira Gandhi sent Chaudhary Charan Singh to the jail as well. When he came out, India's first non-Congress Prime Minister became Morarji Desai, who was from Janata Dal. So Chaudhary Charan Singh joined him. He was the Deputy Prime Minister of India when Morarji Desai was Prime Minister of India in 1977. Now what he did was, in 1979, he, along with his friend Raj Narayan, they both pulled back from the party Janata Dal. And this compelled Morarji Desai to resign from his post because he was losing all his, confidence. His MPs were not with him, so he didn't have the majority, so he resigned. Now, when he resigned, this guy, Chaudhary Charan Singh, became the Prime Minister of India. Only for the period of 5 months and 16 days, he took the oath on 28th of July in 1979, and he resigned. He was, removed from the post on 14th of January 1980. Indira Gandhi became the new Prime Minister. So this precisely was the man, Chaudhary Charan Singh. You must be knowing that how great he was. And when, I must tell you that every year on 23rd of December in India, we celebrate the Kisan Day in the memory of him, because his birthday is on 23rd of December, so we celebrate Kisan Day every year. So that's it from our side today. We'll keep you posted with another videos. Till then, thank you and keep watching.